Hello, guys. How are you doing? Teacher Lucas here. And let's start one more review now for your final test, right? So, here we have the review for the Advanced 1 final test, okay? To help you to be prepared for your final test and you get the highest score. Okay, so we're going to talk about the most important points of units 5, 6, and 7. Okay, let's go. So, starting with unit 5, the name is Going Viral, and we talk about some expressions to express confusion, discussing internet, adjectives ending in ing and ed, and past simple and past progressive, right? The past continuous form. Let's take a look on these ones. So, guys, what's the difference of the past simple and the past progressive? What's the difference? The past simple we use to talk about an action that finished in a specific point in the past, right? And the past progressive we use to talk about an action that was in progress in a specific point in the past, right? So the same as the present continuous, the present progressive, we use the verb to be, but now in the past, plus a verb in the ing. Okay, let's get into more informations. The past simple using the verb to be, right? When we talk about past simple with the verb to be, we have two forms, right? So the past form to verb to be is was and were, okay? Those two forms, okay? I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, we were, you were, and they were, okay? So take a look here at some examples. I was at home yesterday night. He was at the shopping mall last weekend. Were you the principal of that school? I wasn't there when you arrived, right? Using the verb to be. Now the past simple with another verbs, okay? I went to the beach last vacation. She didn't call me yesterday. He played soccer with his friends last Saturday. We ate a lot last Christmas. They didn't do the test last class. So you see that all of these happened in a specific point in the past, okay? And the past progressive, right? So an action that was in progress at some point in the past. I was running when you called me. She was cooking when her sister arrived. He was writing a book when I knocked at the door. We were driving to the beach last summer. You were listening to the music when the teacher called you, right? So remember, it's a verb to be in the past plus a verb in the ing form, okay? So auxiliary verbs in the past to ask questions, we have did, right? So when we're going to make some questions in the past, we have to change the auxiliary verb do for did, okay? And the verb to be continues the same thing. We're going to use the verb to be as an auxiliary verb to ask the question, but now was or were, okay? One of those two forms, okay? So take a look. Did you go to the beach last weekend? Yes, I went to the beach last weekend. No, I didn't go to the beach last weekend. Okay? Pay attention because when we have did or its negative form, didn't, it's already talking about the past. So we don't need to change the verb to the past again. Okay? So when we say, did you go? I know that go is the basic form of the verb in the present, right? We don't need to put go in the past, went, because did it's already put in the sentence in the past, right? So we don't need to change. Did it's already doing this job here, right? But in the affirmative form, yes, I went to the beach last weekend. So in this case, I don't have did nor didn't. So I have to make modifications. I have to change my verb to past form. Negative form, same thing. I didn't go to the beach last weekend. I don't need to put my verb in the past because didn't, it's already making this for me. Okay? Continuing. And the verbs, when we talk about verbs in the past, we have two possible verbs, regular verbs and irregular verbs, okay? The regular verbs, we have some rules. They are easier to understand because they have a pattern, right? So the rule number one is that if your verb ends in the letter E, for example, like, arrive, decide, we're going to add the letter D. So they're going to finish with the ed. So like, liked, arrive, arrived, decide, decided, right? The second rule is that if a verb ends in consonant plus y, for example, carry, try, study, we have to change the y to I, and then we're going to add the ed. So carry, carried, try, tried, study, studied, right? And the last rule is that for all the other verbs, we add the ed. So all of them, the regular verbs, they end in ed. Or you add the ed in rule number 3, or you add the d as in rule number 1, or you add the IED as rule number 2. So for example, watch, watched, ask, asked, clean, cleaned. Okay. And then we have the irregular verbs, right? They have no pattern. So there's no way for us to study this in a pattern. We have to memorize them, right? Because they can be the same, they might change, they may be written in the same form, but the pronunciation is another one. They may not change, right? So that's why we call it regular. So the past of the verb be is was, were. The past, for example, did is the past form of the verb do. Eat, the past form is ate. Now we have the past form felt, that is from the base form feel. Find, the past is found. Got, the base form is get. Give, the past form is gave. Went, the base form is go. Have, the past form is had. Heard, the base form is hear. Has, the past form is had, because have and has, right? They are the same, but just change for the ones you are talking to. The past form knew, it's from the base verb know. Leave, the past form is left. Made, the base form is make. Read, the past form is read. And said, the base form is say. Here are just some of the irregular verbs, right? I recommend you to check your books or even a list on Google that you have all of them, because as I told you, there's no other way to to learn them without memorizing them. Okay, so check some of them that you feel more comfortable with them. Okay, so here we have an activity for you guys. You have some sentences here and you have the past. No, sorry. You have the verbs there in red. The verbs run, bring, have twice. Verb to be, travel, see, and eat. So I recommend you to pause this part right now, okay? Then you can complete using the past forms. So remember, we have regular and irregular verbs, past progressive, negative forms. So analyze everything, then you can complete those sentences, okay? So pause here, do it, and then you get back to see the answers, okay? All right. So assuming that you guys paused and now are you continuing, here you guys have your answers. Okay. So we have had, was running, saw, wasn't, had, were eating, brought, and traveled. Okay. So correct there everything. And we go to unit 6, to buy or not to buy, right? In this one, we learned how to make some suggestions, verb combinations with about and against, conditional sentences, intonation in questions, right? And let's talk about if, right? If we can use if in different forms of conditions. And in this unit, we learn three of them: zero condition, first condition, and the second condition. Let's check one by one, okay? So, oops, sorry. Let's start with the zero condition. When we talk about conditions, what is it? We first need a cause, right? We need something, a condition, right? And then when with our condition, we have a consequence, right? To talk about this, we use if to help us. In the zero condition, we use if plus simple present, and the consequence is also simple present. And zero condition, we talk about things that are true or really or usually facts, right? The, that we use the zero condition to talk about this, right? So for example, if you heat ice, it melts. It's a fact, right? If you do this, it will happen. So if you heat ice, it melts. So if heat, the verb heat, it's also here in the simple present. If you heat ice, it melts. The consequence, it's also in the present. It melts. Okay. If you don't study, you don't pass. So if again, don't study, simple present. Don't pass, simple present. It's a fact. It's true. If you don't study, you don't pass. If it, sorry guys, I didn't see the mistake here, but if it rains, the ground gets wet. It's a fact, right? If it rains, the ground gets wet. So if simple present rains, simple present gets wet. Okay, so the zero condition we use if plus simple present and then the simple present again. Okay. The first condition, when we talk about first condition, we're going to talk about a possible future in the future, right? Something that may happen in order of the cause happens, right? The structure here is if plus simple present, and then the consequence we're going to use will, can, may, right? For example, if it rains tonight, right? If it rains tonight, I will stay at home. So think with me, for me, stay at home, right? In order for me to stay at home, first it needs to rain, right? So I need the cause for me have the consequence. So if it rains tonight, so simple present, I will stay at home. If you call me, right? If again, simple present, if you call me, I can go with you, right? So for me, go with you first, you need to call me, right? If you break the mirror, you will have bad luck. So for you have the bad luck, first you need to break the mirror. So if plus simple present and the consequence is will, can, or may, okay? And the second condition we use when we are talking about hypothetical situation or something that it's impossible to happen, right? We're just thinking about it, right? In this one, we use if plus simple past. So take a look. Now we change. It's not simple present anymore. So if plus simple past, and the consequence we're going to use would, could, and might. Okay. For example, if I won the lottery, I would travel the world, right? So it's kind of difficult to win the lottery, right? So it's a hypothetical situation. So if it's here, I won, it's the past form of the verb win. So if I won the lottery, I would travel the world. If I were a superhero, I would have superpowers, right? So if I were a superhero, I would have superpowers. If I were a bird, I would fly. Okay, so look, all of them have if, then we have the simple past, one were, and the consequence we have would, could, or might, right, to talk about this condition. Okay, to practice now, I want you to guys write there in some paper, in your notebook, uh, affect in your life using the zero condition, a possible future for you this week using the first condition, and a hypothetical situation. If you were a superhero, okay, what would happen using the second condition? Okay, right there, 3 sentences. Okay, if you want to pause again until you finish, then you can go continue for the next one. That's unit 7, getting back on the horse, right? So when here we study some verb combinations with on and off, expressions to consider opinion, sentence stress, people's qualities, and use it to, be used to, get used to, and would. Okay, so let's start with use it to and would, because with these two, right? Both of them we use to talk about past habits, right? So if it's past habits, it means that happened at some point in the past, use it to happen, but nowadays you don't do it anymore, right? It's just past things, okay? So for example, I used to play with my cousin. I used to watch a lot of movies, right? So when I say I used to play with my cousin, it's because in the past we played a lot, but nowadays we don't play anymore. Okay, so pay attention because we use it to. Use it is the verb use in the past, so we don't need to have the other verb, the following verb like play, watch in the past as well. Okay, we're going to use just use it. Okay, but if you're going to make a question, remember what's the auxiliary verb that we use to make questions in the past? Did, right? So if you're going to ask me, did you used to play with your cousin, right? In this case, use became the base form because did, it's already put in the sentence in the past. Remember this, right? And then we have would. Like my grandfather would often read to me when I was younger, right? If you change would there for use it to, it have the same meaning. But the difference is that they tend to use would with more sentimental stuff, right? For example, my grandfather would often read to me when I was younger, right? It's more sentimental, right? You will remember something with caring, right? But in this case, if you're going to use would to refer to something, to a past habit, just be careful to not use it followed by state verbs like be, like, okay, need, right? So just be careful with this, okay? Be used to, we talk about routine, right? Something that you are used to do, okay? So remember to change the be for the verb to be correspondent, okay? So for example, I am used to waking up early. So I am used to waking up early. She's used to writing emails. He was used to walking long distance. So in the past, because it was a routine in the past. Okay, so be used to talk about these routines. Okay, pay attention because if you're going to use a verb after be used to, take a look. You need to put the verb in the ing form. So I am used to waking up. She's used to writing. He was used to walking. Okay? And get used to. It's the process of getting used to do something, right? For example, I got used to my nickname. I have to get used to using social media. So you see, it was the first one was the process, and the second one, I need to go through this process because I need it now. Okay, and when you use get used to, it has the same rule as be used to. If you're going to use a verb, in this case here, use, you need to put the verb in the ing form. Okay, so I got used to my nickname and I have to get used to using social medias, right? So guys, hope you enjoyed this quick review about unit 5, 6, and 7. Study at home, do some exercises, do your homework, do your web lessons, and get prepared for your final test, right? The end of the semester, it's almost here, right? So guys, thank you so much. Hope you enjoy it and see you around. Bye.